Social Security, it's a term you hear all the time, right? Some people call it the third rail of politics. Touch it and you get zapped. Others see it as this solid pillar for retirement. And then you've got folks calling it a Ponzi scheme. It's what gets people arguing at the dinner table. But what's the real story with the program that more than 70 million of us rely on? Well, let's get into it.
So here's the big one. The question on everyone's mind. Will Social Security actually be there for you when you need it? I mean, that's what it all comes down to, doesn't it? Whether you're cashing those checks right now or your retirement feels like a lifetime away. In this explainer, we're going to dig into the numbers and give you the straightest answer we can.
Okay, first things first. Let's talk about what's happening right now, in the short term. Because, forget the big future debates for a second. There are actual changes happening that are going to impact your money. So let's look at the numbers for 2026.
And boom, here's the headline number, 2.8%. That's the 2026 cost of living adjustment, or what everyone calls the COLA. Basically, it's the annual raise Social Security gives out to make sure your benefits don't get eaten alive by inflation. For the average retired person, that's about an extra $56 a month.
But what's really interesting is that this COLA isn't just about the check you get, it actually creates this ripple effect across the entire system. You see that max taxable earnings? That's going up. So higher earners will pay taxes on a bit more of their income. And if you're working while collecting benefits, the amount you can earn before they start taking some back, yep, that's going up too. It's all connected.
All right, so those are the small yearly adjustments, the little tune-ups. But honestly, that's not the reason Social Security is always in the news. The real reason is the big, looming, long-term problem. This is the so what of the whole conversation.
Okay, you've probably heard the scary phrase, trust fund depletion. It sounds like the whole thing is going bankrupt, right? Like the vault is empty. But let's be super clear here. Depletion is not bankruptcy, not even close. Think of it this way. Social Security has a checking account with money coming in every month from taxes, and it also has a savings account for backup. Depletion just means the savings account is projected to run out. The checking account, it's still getting deposits every single payday from people working. So let's put this on a timeline. Right now, everything's fine, 100% of benefits are getting paid. The date you really need to circle on your calendar is 2034. That's when the main retirement funds reserves, that savings account we just talked about, is expected to be empty. But, and this is important, the disability insurance fund is a totally different story. It's actually looking pretty healthy, solvent for pretty much the rest of the century. So we're really talking about two different pots of money here.
And this chart right here, it's probably the most important one for busting that myth that Social Security is going to zero. If lawmakers do absolutely nothing, which, let's be honest, is unlikely, but if they did, after 2034, the money still coming in from taxes would be enough to pay for about 81% of the promised benefits. Now, is a 19% cut a huge deal? Absolutely. But is it zero? No way. It's a shortfall, not a total wipeout.
So you might be thinking, if we know the problem is coming, and we even know when it's coming, why on earth haven't we fixed it? Well, that's where things get complicated. We're getting into the human side of this now, and it's turned into a full-blown generational blame game.
And look, to really get a feel for the emotion here, you just have to peek into an online forum. Our source material did exactly that. This quote from a Reddit user is, well, it's pretty intense, but it really captures that raw feeling of frustration you see from a lot of younger people. They feel like they're being handed the bill for a party they didn't get to attend.
And this really breaks it down, doesn't it? On one side, you have younger folks, millennials and Gen Z, who are scared they're pouring money into a system that's just going to collapse before they can use it. They feel like they're being burdened with a problem they had no hand in creating. On the other side, you have boomers who say, hey, we paid into this our entire lives. A deal's a deal. They built their whole retirement plan around that promise. It's like two groups of people speaking completely different languages.
Okay, so we've got the problem, we've got the politics. Now for the most important part, the now what? What are the actual solutions? What can we do about it? Let's get into the tough choices on the table.
When you boil it all down, there are really three main levers you can pull to fix this. One, bring more money in. That usually means raising taxes, especially on higher earners. Two, pay less money out, which often means raising the retirement age. Or three, you can tweak the benefits themselves, changing the formula for how much people get. The real answer is probably going to be a little bit of all three.
So let's dive into that first option, raising the tax cap. What even is that? Well, in 2026, you only pay Social Security tax on the first, let's call it $185,000 you make. If you make more than that, say $1 million, you don't pay another dime of Social Security tax on that extra income. And that creates a situation that, well, you'll see.
This chart just lays it out so clearly. Look at this. If you make 50 grand a year, 100% of your income gets taxed for Social Security. Makes sense. But if you make 300 grand, you're only paying that tax on about 61% of what you earn. The higher your salary goes, the smaller the percentage of your total income you pay in. And that's why people who want to raise or even get rid of the cap say, hey, this is a fairness issue, and it could go a long way to fixing the funding problem.
All right, now let's talk about the other big idea, raising the retirement age. The argument for it is pretty straightforward. People are just living a lot longer than they were when the program was created, right? So it makes sense. But the argument against it is really powerful too. Think about a construction worker or a nurse. Their bodies might not be able to handle another few years on the job. For them, raising the retirement age isn't just an inconvenience, it's a direct cut to their benefits.
And these aren't just numbers on a page. There are real people behind them. The Urban Institute did some research on this, and it's pretty eye-opening. They found that even small-sounding regulatory changes could have huge effects. For example, a 10% cut in who's eligible for disability could impact 500,000 people over 10 years. And what happens to them? Many are forced to take early retirement, which means their benefits are slashed for the rest of their lives. So that leaves us here, with this really big question. This whole system, it was built on a promise, right? A promise that if you work hard and pay in, we'll be there for you when you're older. But now the world has changed, the math has changed, and so the real challenge isn't just about the numbers, it's about us. It's about deciding what kind of promise we as a country want to make to each other, for our kids and our grandkids. What does that new promise look like?